Walking Dead, we lost two of the best characters. Well, one of the best characters. I did not give a about Glenn. Screw Glenn. That stupid Asian pizza boy, horn dog. All he wanted was sex for Maggie. Even when her family died, he was like, "Oh, why can't we use this tonight?" Her family is dead, bro. You suck, Glenn. You just suck, Glenn. I hate you. I'm glad your face got bashed in. Whew, I had to get that off my chest. Abraham, I'm sorry, bro. You got the crappiest death in the series. You didn't even get, no good death. You got a Game of Thrones death. You got, stabbed through the eyeball, my dude, with a crossbow bolt. But, what if I told you about a future where Glenn and Abraham never died? At least they didn't die when they were supposed to. What if I told you that a lot of things would play out differently? Would you believe me? Would you see it as fact? Let's jump right into this, folks. Guys, Tiger Brinson, and I'll be doing a video on the Walking Dead comic book. It's a what if topic, and I'll be discussing what would happen if Glenn and Abraham never died in the first place, and both characters made it to All Out War. Keep in mind, this is a separate timeline, so a lot of things will happen differently. For instance, Maggie will never become leader of Hilltop if Glenn lived past getting his face smashed in. So, without any further ado, let's jump right into this. Since Abraham survived the battle with Dwight, he would most likely join Rick and company and drive to Hilltop for reinforcements. They'd most likely keep driving, so they'd never have that faithful run-in with Negan. Glenn and Maggie will settle down at Hilltop while Rick discusses the sitch with Gregory and Jesus. Gregory, hearing the Savior's numbers, will puss out, much like he did in the original timeline, but Jesus will still plan to gather intel. Rick will return to Alexandria and have it found attacked, just as he did in the original timeline, but Andrea will have defended it and still have captured Dwight. While he still believes the Saviors to be a manageable threat, instead of letting Dwight go, Rick will have him tortured for information. Maggie will never become leader of Hilltop, since she'll never have to become hardened in the face of losing Glenn. Instead, Glenn would step up as leader and become a much different character from the one we knew in present day. Alright. Since Rick never met Negan on the road, Negan would most likely have his forces attack Hilltop and Alexandria and personally go to see Rick, demanding they talk face to face. Negan would face Negan alone, and since he'd already be united with Ezekiel and Hilltop, Rick would become much more confident and declare war. Okay, sorry, I got a little off track. But, Rick would probably meet Ezekiel much earlier because Abraham would use his military experience to rally forces much faster. And their plans would be much more strategic since Abraham would still be alive. He would most likely replace Holly's role in ramming the fence and being captured by Negan. Wanting to break Rick, Negan would publicly execute him. Abraham's death would give Rick the same drive to defeat Negan, similar to what Glenn's death did in the original timeline. Negan would still use the infected weapons, but Rick's army would lose less people because of Abraham's strategies. Rick would still be at the Battle of Hilltop, and Nicholas would still get stabbed and meet his inevitable death. Rick would recover and confront Negan. The fight would play out differently since Negan would be on the losing side this time, and Rick would wipe out the Saviors, except for Dwight, Rick would wipe out most of the Saviors, much like what happened in issue 126, but Dwight would become leader. Since Rick was never forced to witness Glenn's death and humble himself and fully realized Negan's powers, he would most likely kill Negan and make an example of him instead of doing the much more diplomatic thing and letting him live. Oh yeah, and let me see what else would happen and if Glenn and Abraham never died their respective deaths. I could say that maybe, huh? I could probably say that everyone would still be a lot more hardened. Rick would get an even bigger head because he would never, he'd never fully realize what Negan was capable of because he would be much more prepared as opposed to when he originally wasn't prepared and he got ambushed and stuff. Uh, who knows? I could say a new beginning would be different. Carl would never have his conversations with Negan, and Negan most likely wouldn't have had as much as an influence on him as he does in present day. And Carl would, against the fight with the kids, he probably would have been less brutal and honestly just would have fought back hand to hand. Still would have won. Uh, Let me see. Glenn would handle that situation a lot differently. Let me see what else. All right, one more thing. One more thing, and I'm done, guys. Sorry, I'm stuttering a lot, and I'm freaking nervous. But one more thing. Carl and Sophia would probably still be in a relationship. So yeah. Well, that's all I got for you. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and have a nice day. Since Rick never lost his leg in the ensuing fight with Negan, he wouldn't be a limping tool with a frickin' cane. He wouldn't have gotten that stupid hair.